Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic. And if you want to see more of that, you can hit the subscribe button down below. Today we are going to be doing an update on my stats and goals for the year so far. So at some point in the filming frenzy that was the mid-year, I promised you guys some kind of update on my goals and stats and everything. I'm not sure if that made it into any of the final cuts of anything, but we're gonna do it anyway because I was excited to look at these stats and see where I am on my goals and do a little update. So I'm going to start by going through the goals that I set in my goals video at the end of last year, and we'll see how things line up. And then we'll also talk a little bit more about any challenges I've added and what's going on in my other reading life. So first of all, my goal was to read 100 books this year, and I'm currently at 84 if you don't count DNFs. If you count DNFs, I think I'm around 92. So I've had between 8 or so DNFs this year. So we're going to bump this up a little bit to 125 since the Amazing Readathon doubled my reading for the year. I was sitting at about 40 at the end of May, and at the end of June, I was in the mid 80s, like I said. So this has been a success so far this year. I am really happy with things I'm reading, and I'm sort of glad that I have reintroduced graphic novels and manga into my reading because I forgot how much I love them. So anyway, we're going to bump this up to 125 and hope that I can hit that this year. I'm really looking forward to trying. Then I had a pages and hours goal. My pages goal was 19,000 by the end of 2024, and I am currently at 13,500 roughly. That's about where I rounded to, and this is going really well as well. I think I'm several thousand pages ahead, and this is mostly because of manga and graphic novels that I read in June. So that's going to skew these numbers a little bit. I also want to maybe at the end of the year take a look at my novel pages, just because I would like to see how much I'm reading physically, because I've been trying to reintroduce that into my habits this year, and I think it's going pretty well, but I'd like to see that number without the manga and graphic novels. So we'll see where we go. Then my hours goal was 600. I'm currently at 475. So I'm going to actually bump this up to 800 because I think 600 was about where I landed last year at the end. I had kind of made my goal of 600 before I finished out the year, and I was actually already at 600. So I'm trying to challenge myself to read a little more by getting to 125 books. So I'm going to try to challenge myself to get a little more audiobook reading in to go to 800 hours. And then if we're talking about my physical TBR, this is these numbers, guys. So I have been thinking recently, as long back as I can remember this year, that my goal was to get my physical TBR under 90, and I'm currently sitting at 93 books. So I was like, I'm making great progress. I'm doing a good job. Maybe I'll even lower it at the mid-year. And then when I got to the end of the video, the goal was actually 80. So if I started at 105 and I'm currently at 93, I've reduced it about 12 books. So that's about what I would do in the second half of the year if nothing changes with my buying and acquiring habits. So we're going to keep it at 80 and see where we get till the end of the year. And then hopefully we can make it even lower in 2025. But yeah, I have been quoting myself the wrong amount all this time. But that's what I originally said in December, so we're going to stick with 80. Like I said, I am down to 93 books, and I was hoping to purchase less than 50 books because purchasing tends to be where I build up my physical TBR because I'm not reading it as quickly as I'm buying it. So I'm currently I purchased 33 books so far in 2024. Now that's not terribly far ahead, and I did sign up for a subscription service through my local indie that I get 3 romance books in a subscription box every month, which I wasn't planning on doing at the beginning of the year. But because I also made a goal to go to a bunch of those book clubs, I decided to get the book club book because you always get the book club in the subscription and then an additional 2 books. So I was thinking this will encourage me to go to more book clubs. But it's also, I'm not reading those books quite as quickly as I'm getting them. So we're going to hopefully focus on those in the second half of the year. because I don't want them to keep building up, and I also want to pay a little bit more attention to what's going to be in the next month, because we do find out beforehand. So I want to kind of pay attention to the secondary books, because I can always go in and buy the book club book or borrow the book club book, but I want to start paying a little more attention to see if I want to skip any months going forward. Another part of my TBR goals for the year was to eliminate any books that I had purchased in 2018 and any books I didn't know when I purchased them. Currently, I think I meant 2019, 2018, because I do not have any books left on my shelf that I purchased in 2018. So I have 3 remaining 2019 titles left. I'd really like to focus on those, and they're all ones that I am very intimidated by, but I'm also trying to tackle in the next couple of months. So hopefully you'll see me read these soon. And then I have 7 unknowns remaining. So I am also going to try to tackle those in the second half of the year. That's 10 books. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it done, but we're going to give it a shot. I had a goal to read 1 nonfiction book a quarter, and I have read 0. Absolutely none. I kept putting 2 or 3 of them on a TBR, like every season. I'd keep trying to add them in. I haven't done it yet. I think I need to get over the hurdle of the first one. So I'm taking one along on my beach vacation this month and hoping that I enjoy reading a nonfiction on the beach and thinking about it and sort of getting lost in it. So we'll see if that works, but hopefully we can get this at least 2 done now. I also had a goal about book clubs at my local indie. I wanted to go to 8 romance book clubs and 4 of their like general fiction book clubs. So far I have gone to 3, and that I think that's going pretty well. I mean, that's half of the goal. And but I have gone to none of the general fiction ones. And honestly, I'm going to take this goal off because I am not going to go to the general fiction. However, they have added a fantasy book club every other month. So I'm going to try between the 2 to go to 8 total this year, because I really think that I really enjoy going to the book clubs, and a lot of times the picks are something that I'm either interested in or find really good. I've only had a couple of duds through the book club, so I want to do this, and I'm sad that I am going to miss them both while I'm on vacation this month, but we'll get started on the second half of the year when I get back. I'm still going to read the book for book club. I'm just going to miss it because I am going on vacation. I wanted to finish 10 series this year, and I'm currently at 3, so this is something I really have to work on this second half of the year, especially since I just did a series video and I realized how many series I have going. So I'm really hoping in the second half of the year I can either kind of do an audit of those series and see if I'm still really interested in reading them and if I can finish any out, because I think there's several on that list that I could use to get to 10 that I only have to read 1 or maybe 2 books left in. I wanted to finish filling in my personal library sheet, and I actually made this goal before I purchased the spreadsheet that I purchased from Allie at the Book Hoarder. That's whose spreadsheet I use every year. Hers is fantastic. I will have it linked down below if you want to check it out, because it's just so good. It has so many pieces to it, but she actually took the personal library piece out. I believe it's a second separate spreadsheet now that I think about it, which I didn't think about until now. So I'll have to look into that, but I have not been doing this because it wasn't in the spreadsheet anymore. So I did scan my personal library into Libib. I scanned it into an app or a website mid point of the first half of the year, like somewhere around March or April. So I did do that to try and keep a better track of this, but I also haven't been keeping that updated. So maybe I need to look into this a little more. I'm not sure. This is kind of a vague goal, so I'm going to have to like nail down what I would actually get done with this. And then the last goal that I talked about in my goals video was to keep better track of spending and selling. I wanted to put it in my spreadsheet rather than just in my OneNote document. And I have been doing this. I had to do a little bit of updating here right before I filmed this video. Actually, like I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know if I've done that in a couple of months. And I was like a month and a half behind because I didn't do it at all during June. But I have been doing that pretty consistently to keep track of things, because, you know, I wanted to do that, and I have done pretty good with that, I think. In total, I have bought 32 books, as I talked about, but I have also sold 58 on Pango, and this doesn't include any I decided to unhaul either to donation or free library. I still have to enter those. I didn't do that for the first half of the year yet, so I'm going to be doing that at some point here soon. I keep putting it on my to-do list, and it keeps getting kicked down the road. So I'm actually really happy with this. I have spent more than I have earned, but I'm hoping that we'll get a little closer to balanced, since I'm hoping not to buy as many books in the second half of the year, but we'll see. It's always a gamble, like with unhauls and stuff like that, if I want to post them or if I want to just donate them and get them out of my house. So we shall see where we go from here, but like I said, I'm really hoping to purchase fewer books in the second half of the year, so hopefully this kind of evens out. As far as reading challenges go, I have 3 that I'm currently participating in. One is the Our Fantasy Book Bingo for 2024. This started in March, and I have read 5 of the 25 prompts so far, and I am really hoping to get back on track with this, because I think I'm like 1 or 2 books behind being like on track. I'm also doing my local indies book challenge, which there are 24 prompts, and I have read 14. I'm at 58%, which I think is pretty good, but I have pretty much filled in all the ones I would fill in without trying, so I have to try a little bit harder for the rest of them. And so that will be a challenge in the second half of the year, but I'm really hoping I can double up some of the Our Fantasy and the Indie Book Club bookstore picks. Then my final challenge is my 24 in 24, and I have completed 7 books. I have read 7 of my 20 and 24, 24 and 24, and I have DNF 2. So in total I have 9 done, so I am not quite at the halfway mark, and I need to get back on track with this as well. June threw me off a little bit with some of these things, just because I had been pretty much trying to stay on track with 2 of each of these a month, and I definitely didn't prioritize it when we were doing Amazing Readathon, and also I was in a slump for most of May, so it's a combination of things. So I'm hoping in July and August here in the summer I can get back on track and get some of these read. I'm going to give you a couple of really quick stats because I always find these interesting. As far as format goes, I have read 41% print, 13% digital, and 46% audio. I am interested. I've added so much digital back in because normally this is split pretty heavily between print and audio, and then digital is like a smidge. So I think that's an interesting stat. I will put my story graph here that shows the number of books I read per month versus pages and minutes. I always like looking at this, and the fact that I hit 40 books in June makes this graph look really, really interesting. Then I also wanted to put in I'm pulling the green pie charts are from Allie's spreadsheet, so I also wanted to put in here to show that I've read 74% adult, or 79% adult. I've read 74 books that are adult versus 0 new adult and 18 YA and 1 middle grade. So I have really leaned into the adult. I didn't even realize how much I was doing this until I was looking at this chart. Adult has really been where I have spent and focused my energy for the past couple of years, and this chart makes it even more obvious. I really like the acquired from chart because it shows where I got the book from, and I tried to split this up this year, like if that I borrowed it from the library physically, if I borrowed it from Libby only, if I borrowed it from Libby and I owned a copy, stuff like that, like Libro FM, like digital copy versus Libro FM, and I also own a physical copy. If I put in that I bought it from the bookstore or the publisher or anything like that, that means that I bought it this year. But otherwise, if I put in like sort of if I got it from the library and I own a copy, then I've purchased it in a previous year, if that makes sense. At least that's what I've been trying to do. These stats always get a little mushy because I update them once a month, so sometimes I forget what my plan is while I'm doing it. 71% of the books that I read this year so far are part of a series, and 29% are standalones, which I find really interesting. I would have thought this stat would be even higher for series, but it is like a good 2/3 series and 1/3 standalones, which I'm actually really happy about. That means I'm not starting quite as many series as I thought, since I have only finished 3. Then just a few other bits and bobs here as far as stats. The shortest book I've read physically this year is Silent Blade at 72 pages. The longest book I've read physically this year is Heartless by Elsie Silver at 476 pages. And then I have the shortest book I've read on audio, which is Thornhenge at 3.75 hours. And I've listened to The Name of the Wind, which is my longest audiobook this year, at 28 hours. So that was really interesting to me. I've reread 4 books, which is incredibly low for me. I can't believe that's only 4, but I feel like I have to check on that. I'm going to have to go back and make sure that that's correct, because I reread at least 2 things in June, 3 things in June. So I feel like that might be wrong. I'm going to have to double check that. Then like I said, I acquired 32 books, and so far I have checked out 55 books from the library. So that is all mixed in with new reads that I am borrowing on audiobook, but I might have a physical copy of. But there's been 55 checkouts from my library so far, and I can actually tell you that by checking out books from the library, I have saved $689.98. So how I figured this out is I will go and look at I will add the books into the spreadsheet, and I will look at whatever form I read them in. So if I listen to them as an audiobook, I will put in the price of the audiobook. If I read them physically, I'll put in the price of the physical book. And if I'm listening to the audio but I own the physical, I will subtract the cost of the physical book from the cost of the audiobook. So some of these I actually have like negative numbers in if the audiobook ended up costing less than the physical book or something like that, but that's just sort of how I do it to get that number. And like I said, I got 55 things from the library this year. Those, I think, are all the stats that I'm going to talk about today. I am really happy with how things are going so far this year, especially how much I'm reading, especially since June, because I was definitely feeling like I was in a slump in May. June really kicked me back, and now July is a little bit slumpy, but I'm going on vacation, so I'm sure we're going to bounce back here soon. But those are all of the stats that I'm going to talk about today. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about any of them, talk about how many books you've read, what you've borrowed from the library, any of that good stuff, go ahead and let me know down below. And if you want to let me know you were here but you're not feeling chatty, you can leave me any kind of pencil, pen, graph, chart emoji down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!